You know, it, it, it's kind of unnerving to see how much the AI landscape is changing
Yeah.
and how quickly. I mean, it feels like every week there's a new breakthrough or some major announcement.
Absolutely. And with the US and China racing to be the leader, it's
Yeah.
it's getting really intense.
Well, and what's really gotten my attention is this shift in opinion from Eric Schmidt,
Oh, right.
you know, former Google CEO. I mean, just a year ago, he seemed pretty confident about where the U.S. stood in AI
Yeah,
development.
he was pretty vocal about that.
But now it seems like he's singing a different tune.
He is. He's practically sounding the alarm bells, saying that China is pulling ahead, and he's not mincing words.
And it's not just like a casual observation.
Hmm.
He told an author who's writing a book about U.S.-China relations that he needs to add a whole chapter on how the U.S. messed up in AI. I mean, when
Oh.
Eric Schmidt says something like that,
Yeah, that's a pretty strong statement.
yeah, it makes you sit up and take notice.
It really underscores the gravity of the situation. What's interesting is that Schmidt used to think the US could stay ahead by controlling who got access to the advanced chips needed for AI, kind of a.
Right, a technological chokehold.
Exactly. But he's admitting now that Chinese companies have caught up.
So that strategy's out the window.
Pretty much.
And it's not just about chips, is it? Schmidt has pointed to other advantages China has, like a huge pool of talented engineers and the massive amounts of data they have to train AI.
Right. Those are definitely key factors.
But then he also brings up something I hadn't really considered, access to electric power.
Oh, yeah.
He says that China having cheap, abundant electricity gives them a real edge in AI development.
And that's a crucial point. Training these really complex AI models takes a ton of computing power. It's like running a supercomputer constantly, which uses up a lot of energy.
So even if we had the best AI algorithms and the brightest minds, we could still be held back by something as basic as electricity.
Exactly.
It's kind of a
Yeah.
scary thought.
It shows just how complex this competition really is. It's not just about algorithms and talent. It's about infrastructure, resources, strategic planning on a national level. And this is where Schmidt's concerns about artificial general intelligence come in, AGI.
Okay, AGI. For those of us who aren't quite up on the latest sci-fi lingo, can you explain that?
Sure. So we often hear about AI being used for specific things like self-driving cars or facial recognition. But AGI, that's a whole other ballgame. It's artificial intelligence that's as smart as humans or even smarter AI that can learn and think like we do, or even better.
So not just AI that can beat us at chess, but AI that could design the next spaceship or find a cure for cancer.
Exactly. That's the idea. And Schmidt says that whoever gets to AGI first will have a huge advantage globally. It's like unlocking a whole new level of human potential, but in an artificial form.
Okay, I can see why he's worried.
Yeah.
But how realistic is AGI really? Is it something we need to be concerned about right now, or is it more of a far-off possibility?
Well, that's a hot topic right now. Some experts think AGI is still decades away, while others think it could happen much sooner. But one thing's for sure, the development of AGI is speeding up, and the implications are huge.
So we could be talking about AI that can invent new materials, discover life-saving drugs, solve problems we can't even imagine right now.
Precisely. And Schmidt describes a scenario with AI scientists working nonstop, accelerating research and development at an unbelievable pace. If one country unlocked that potential first, it would give them a massive lead in every area you can think of: medicine, technology, economics, even military power.
Wow, yeah, now I'm starting to see why Schmidt is so concerned. It's not just about losing some tech race. It's about potentially falling behind in every aspect of human progress.
Right, it's a pretty sobering thought. But it's important to remember that Schmidt hasn't lost all hope. Even with all these warnings, he still has some techno-optimism. He believes the US and China could still work together, especially when it comes to regulating AI and controlling the risks.
Collaboration. That seems pretty optimistic considering how competitive things are. How would that even work?
Well, Schmidt suggests that maybe both countries could agree to ban AI systems from controlling weapons or launching attacks on their own. He recognizes that AI could be extremely dangerous, especially in the wrong hands, and that there are some lines we shouldn't cross.
So like an arms control agreement, but for artificial intelligence instead of nuclear weapons. That makes sense, but can we really expect countries that are competing so fiercely to agree on something as big as AI regulation?
That's the million-dollar question. It would require a level of international cooperation and trust that's really tough to achieve, especially with the way things are in the world right now.
Is a real catch-22.
Yeah.
We need to work together to avoid the dangers of AI, but the competition itself makes that cooperation so much harder.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance with incredibly high stakes.
Well, we've definitely covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive. The changing landscape of the AI race, China's rise as a major player, the concerns about AGI and what it could mean. And we've touched on the possibility of collaboration and regulation as ways to manage the risks of this powerful technology.
And in the next part, we'll dig deeper into how the US and China are approaching AI development, exploring the strengths and weaknesses of each approach and the challenges they face in this complex and rapidly changing world. It's really interesting when you compare how the US and China are going about this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
The US has always been about private sector innovation, you know?
Right. Silicon Valley, venture capital, the whole move fast and break things idea.
Exactly. It's been a pretty decentralized approach.
But does that still work now?
Yeah.
Especially with China coming on so strong with their more, I don't know, top-down approach.
That's the big question, isn't it? China's definitely doing things differently. They're pouring tons of money into research and development, giving huge subsidies to AI companies, and basically making it really attractive for businesses to adopt AI technologies. It's very strategic, with the government playing a big role in how AI is developed and used.
So it's not just about funding research. It's about creating this whole environment where AI can take off. They're playing the long game, building up a pipeline of talent, funding cutting-edge research, making sure AI is woven into every part of their economy and society.
Exactly. And that raises the question, can the U.S. keep up with its more hands-off approach? Sure, there's been more funding for AI research, programs to train people in AI, and efforts to get academia, industry, and the government working together.
But is it enough?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are wondering.
Some people argue that the U.S. needs to get a lot more aggressive, more coordinated, like maybe even create a national AI initiative, something like what China's done, a kind of moonshot for AI.
Like we did with the space race.
Well, exactly. There are definitely more and more voices calling for that kind of centralized approach. They say the U.S. needs to act with a real sense of urgency if it wants to stay ahead of China.
And I get that. But then there's the other side of the argument too, right?
Right. The whole idea that what's made the U.S. a leader in innovation is this spirit of individual freedom and private enterprise.
Yeah, let the market decide. Let the best ideas win. That's the American way, right?
But can that model compete with a country like China, where the government is so heavily involved in directing resources and setting priorities?
It's a tough one. It really is. This tension between these two philosophies, hands-off versus government-led.
And it's not just about the economy either, right?
Oh, absolutely. AI has huge implications for national security, too. Think about it. AI-powered surveillance systems, autonomous weapons, sophisticated cyber warfare capabilities. It's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
It's not just about military power. It's about global influence, economic dominance, what the future is going to look like. It feels like we're at a real crossroads.
We are. The decisions we make today will have consequences for years to come. And that leads us to another really important question. What about regulation?
Right. If AI has the potential to do so much good, but also so much harm, how do we make sure it's developed and used responsibly? How do we prevent AI from becoming a threat to humanity instead of a tool for progress?
It's a huge challenge, especially when you consider the competition between countries.
Yeah, can we really expect nations that are fighting for AI dominance to agree on rules that might limit their own progress?
It's a tough one. Some people think we need international agreements and treaties to set guidelines for AI development and use. Others think that's pointless, that national self-interest and the speed of innovation will make those efforts fail.
It really does feel like we're in uncharted territory. We need to encourage innovation and use AI to solve the world's problems, but we also need to be aware of the risks and make sure AI is developed and used ethically.
It's a balancing act for sure.
We need to be asking ourselves some big questions. What kind of future do we want to build with AI? What are the ethical lines we shouldn't cross? How do we make sure AI empowers humanity instead of controlling it?
Exactly. It's not just about the algorithms and the technology, it's about us, about the choices we make, the values we have, the kind of future we want to create.
We've been talking a lot about AI on this huge global scale. Countries fighting to be on top, the possibility of AI being used in wars, these big, like almost philosophical questions.
Right?
But how does all of this affect the everyday person? What does this AI revolution actually mean for someone who's not like a tech CEO or a politician?
Well, that's where it gets real. AI is already all around us, even if we don't always think about it.
Oh, definitely.
The way we talk to each other, get information, shop, even work, it's all being shaped by these algorithms.
It's true. You don't really think about it until you stop. And
Yeah.
as AI gets even smarter, It's only going to have more influence on our lives. So it's not just about some far-off future. It's about the decisions we're making right now that will determine what that future looks like.
Exactly.
It's like, if we're not careful, if we're not paying attention, we could end up being controlled by these sources we don't understand,
Right.
driven by algorithms we didn't create. It's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is. It is. It makes it even more important to be informed, to ask questions, to really understand both the good and the bad that AI could bring. But honestly, it can feel a bit overwhelming. Like, where do you even start?
That's exactly.
Well, I think curiosity is a good place to begin. Read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, talk to people who work with AI, try to get different perspectives.
Yeah, just dive in.
Exactly. The more you learn, the better prepared you'll be to deal with all these changes that are happening so fast.
And it's good to remember that we're all learning as we go. Even the experts don't have all the answers figured out yet.
Oh, for sure. No one has all the answers when it comes to something as complicated and powerful as AI. What matters is that we're all talking about it, trying to understand it, and using our voices to shape the future we want.
I like that. Using our voices. It's easy to feel powerless with technology changing so quickly.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what you're saying is that we all have a responsibility to be a part of this conversation about AI, even if it's just by staying informed and asking questions.
Exactly. This isn't just a conversation for tech people or politicians. It's a conversation for everyone. The choices we make, what we value, the demands we put on our leaders, all of those things will affect how AI develops.
Well, we've definitely covered a lot in this deep dive. The global race for AI, the amazing potential, and also the risks of AGI, the challenges of regulating AI, and why ethics and values need to be a big part of the discussion. It's been a wild ride through a really complex and rapidly changing world.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yep.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you some things to think about, some new perspectives, and maybe even a feeling that you can be a part of this.
Yeah.
Because the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's a story that we're all writing together.
I love that. Story we're all writing together. It's a good reminder that we have a choice, that we can make decisions that will shape how this technology unfolds. And on that note, I want to leave you with one last thought to consider. Imagine you're suddenly put in charge of your country's AI strategy. What would be your top priority? Would you focus on speeding up research, pushing for tougher regulations, building international collaborations? There are no easy answers, but it's a question worth thinking about as we all navigate this uncharted territory together. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.